We started last week, so we're gonna just do a review of the beginning from Cuntress Chodish Elul Tavshin Memtes, which is in Sefer Maamor. Look at Chelik Gimel from page Reish Samach Gimel and onwards, if that's the Sefer you're using. But we're going to start from Eis Gimel. That's where we're up to. So just to give us a quick review. So he starts again in the pasuk Ledodi v'Ledodi. This Maamor is from Wednesday night, Chodish Elul Tavshin Lamed Beis, 1972. And the Rebbe starts with the question which he asks numerous times, and that is that the Alter Rebbe tells Anila Dedi V'Dedi Li is Rashi Tevis Elul, and immediately goes to tell us that Elul is Anila Dedi and then Dedi Li is Tishrei. In which case, why is it included in the Rashi Tevis of Elul? That's question number one. And the question number two he asked is that the Alter Rebbe goes at length to explain the whole idea of Elul, the Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim, starting with Shem Keil, and he gives the mashal of Melech Vasoda that's receiving everybody with Kabel Kulam, B'Sever Panim Yafes, Umara Panim Shechekes. All of this seems to be the notion of Ava, and that the tshuva of Elul is a tshuva me'ava. The Alter Rebbe asks, how does that work? How does that work side by side with what the Tur tells us, his perception of Elul, that we blow shofar in the month of Elul in order to kidei lahazir v'sa'om sheyasa tshuva, which is a time in that case of yira and charada, awe and trepidation. So how the two coexist? That it's a time of ava, tshuva mi'ava, and tshuva with yira and charada. So we are up to in Beis he started explaining the difference between ava and yira. That ava is something which is from response to something from outside, while yira is something that's generated from within. In which case, it only strengthens the question: how do the two go together? The same shofar, which is meant to represent ava, is meant to represent yira and charada as well. How does that happen? So in Gimel, he goes into the body of the Maamor, and the Maamor is now from here onwards is going to be based on a Maamor of the Tzemach Tzedek, which is going to analyze. So to understand all of this, based on what the Tzemach Tzedek explains in a Maamor, he explains the significance of blowing shofar in Chodish Elul. He has a footnote here that the Rebbe leaves it open. He doesn't requires further explanation. What's the diuk of Dafka Chodish Elul when shofar is all Elul? What's the significance of Dafka Chodish Elul? That the Rebbe leaves open. In any case, the Tzemach Tzedek explains the difference between Tkiyas Shofar the Elul and Tkiyas Shofar the Reish Hashanah is Shahira v'Acharada Haba LeTkiyas Shofar the Elul is Yira Tata. That the yira, the awe and trepidation which is inspired in person as a result of Tkiyas Shofar in Elul is what's known as yira tata. While the yira, the charada, the Tkiyas Shofar, the Reish Hashanah is yira ilah. Lower level yira, higher level yira. What is yira ilah and yira tata? We're going to discuss in the next parak in Dalet. The Tzemach Tzedek says Tkiyas Shofar of Elul inspires one to a lower yira. Tkiyas Shofar of Tishrei of Rosh Hashanah inspires to a higher yira. Therefore, says the Tzemach Tzedek, Zeh shetiknu tkei b'shofar b'reish Hashanah b'reish Chodesh Elul, and then throughout Kol HaChodesh, because they love the yira ilah, because in order to arrive at yira ilah, there needs to be first yira tata. That's the first explanation he says for shofar in Elul from Rosh Chodesh Elul. And another reason should take him a shofar Chodesh Elul kedem b'reish Hashanah who. Good morning. Because I say starting from Rosh Hashanah, what needs to be done? There's a goal, a mission that we're trying to achieve during the Aseret Tshuva. That is we're trying to bring down from the Makif. We'll explain in a minute. Why do we want to draw down from the Makif? The goal is to draw down from the Makif in order to repair that which has become damaged throughout the year. In order to be able to draw down from the Makif, the key to drawing down from the Makif is through Bittul. And Bittul is inspired by Tkiyas Shofar. So I say Tshuva, its goal is to draw down from the Makif, And you need shofar in order to inspire the bittul. Okay. To explain, what does that mean? So we know from other places, Maamor of Tishrei, of Shmini Atzeres in particular, the Rebbe's Maamor, where the Rebbe explains with that which the Alter Rebbe tells us in Tanya, that every year on Rosh Hashanah there's a new Gilui Eir Chodesh. Every year on Rosh Hashanah there comes a new Gilui Eir Chodesh into the world. And that Gilui Eir takes a time in order to be able to come down. So on Rosh Hashanah, the Gilui Eir is symbolized by the 100 keles of Tkiyas Shofar. It's sound, it's not yet tangible, because the new air is still from a distance, like sound that you hear from a distance. Then on Yom Kippur, that's symbolized by the Kteres, which there was in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. That is already something tangible. You can see it, you can smell it, but you can't really touch it yet. Then it comes down further into the Sukkah, and particularly the Sukkah in general, and the Schach in particular, symbolizing this Gilui Eir comes down already into the Makif of the Sukkah. It's really something more tangible, you're able to go into it. And ultimately it comes down to Shmini Atzeres, it comes down into Apnimius. That's the process, that's how he explains, that's what Shmini Atzeres, it's Echad, Par Echad, Ayel Echad, etc. That's the Makif that he's talking about over here. So that is every year, there's a new element. Saying over here, that Tzemach Tzedek is saying even more than that. Another purpose of this new Gilui Eir is in order to be able to repair the faults, the damages that have been done throughout the year as a result of Yidden being human. We repair it. So it says Tshuva, we're bringing down this makif. And makif, the only way it can come down is through bittul, he says. As he quotes now from the Alter Rebbe, by the number 15. Posuk says, After of Shabbos Chodesh. The Eibushter says, Hashemayim Kisi, the heavens is my chair. The earth is my footstool. What home, how is it possible to build a home for the Eibushter? The Eibushter can't be contained. Hashemayim lo yichal kalucha. So he says, the way you can able to get, so to speak, to bring the Eibushter down, this is where I will look and pay attention and be involved in. An impoverished person and of lowly spirit. So what is it? Shemayim v'aretz and Torah mitzvahs. Shemayim v'aretz and Torah mitzvahs. So we're able to have a Eibushter, but to a limited degree, the level of, good morning, a limited degree of how much Hamshacha we can have with Eibushter through Torah mitzvahs. Because the Hamshacha of the Torah mitzvahs is an Eir Pnimi, which is symbolized by the chair and the footstool. Kisi v'adayim ragli. These are already things that the king is actually physically sitting on. Torah mitzvahs, so it's an Eir Pnimi. But if they Hamshach even higher, in order to Hamshach in a higher level, the level of Makifim, a bias is the Makif, the bias of Makif. Uva Makifim atzon Makif erochik. Right? And as we learn about, there's different levels of Makif. There's the garments that we wear, which is the Makif HaKorev, and then there is the house that we sit in, is called the Makif HaRochik. So a kisei, a chair and a footstool, that's Torah mitzvahs. Through Torah mitzvahs, we bring the Eibushter down. That's on the lower level, it's known as the Eir Pnimi. But in order, you want to bring down the house, so to speak. You want to bring down the Eibushter, the level of Makif of the Eibushter, not just any Makif, but the level of Makif of Bayis. That's why they bittul. Only in the Cheruach. The Chored, and the Pasuk continues, the Chored al Dvoreh. Trepidation before the words, before the Eibushter, that's bittul. Therefore it says that Tzemach Tzedek v'lochein taken b'shefer be'elul. In order to be able to draw down this makif on the Rosh Hashanah, there needs to be lowliness of spirit and trepidation before the Eibushter. And how do we achieve that? So again, through Shefer, it brings this charada. So the Tzemach Tzedek is explaining the first explanation of Tkiyas Shefer from Eshkidish Elul, throughout Elul, is also for charada, but that's for Yira Tata. While the Tkiyas Shefer and Rosh Hashanah is in order for Yira Ilah. That's what he says in the first explanation. And then another explanation he gives is in order to bring down, which explains only the Shefer of Tishrei, of Rosh Hashanah, Sesame Tshuva, is in order to bring down the level of Makif. Because its purpose is to fill the pgam of the year, of the previous year. So the Rebbe asks now, that's the Tzemach Tzedek's two explanations. So the Rebbe says now, the Rebbe asks a question. Both have in common that the purpose of blowing shofar is to bring yira and charada. Yira ilo, yira tata, but they're both yira. So blowing of shofar and Rosh Hashanah also brings the charada. In fact, v'adarabah, hacharada de Rosh Hashanah is g'deli yisim hacharada de Elul. It's a greater charada. Ukanal, and as we just mentioned, in the Maamor of the Tzemach Tzedek, shacharada abba mitki shofar de Elul is yira tata, and the charada abba mitki shofar de Rosh Hashanah is yira ilo. So it's an even greater yira. If that's the case, what's v'afal pikin? Nonetheless, we're saying that Hamshachas HaMakif and the Rosh Hashanah is through the Charada Abba with Kiyah Shofar de Elul. Why do you need the Kiyah Shofar of Elul to bring the Makif of Rosh Hashanah? If the Makif of Rosh Hashanah comes from Bittul, which is generated by a much higher level of Charada. Especially as he says in the first explanation that it's the Yirei Ilah. So why do we need Shofar at all in Elul? So we'll understand the answer to this question and the questions which you asked earlier. So first, let's understand what's Yirei Ilah and Yirei Tata, and from that he's going to take us on a journey, and we'll be able to understand everything. So, Dalet. Yuvan ze behekdem habir bozeh she Yirei de Elul Yirei Tata. V'Yirei de Rosh Hashanah is Yirei Ilah. But first, explaining this difference between them. The difference is the Yirei Tata is Migdulasi Yizbarach. Yirei Tata, lower level Yira. Yira comes, as we said in Beis, Yira is generated by us, by the people. It's a Yira that we have to arrive at through our Hizbeininus. That's what he tells us in Eis Beis. While Ava is a response to something which was given to us, so therefore the response is love. Yira is something that, like he gave the mashal, when the people appoint a melech. They appointed the melech and they gave him the absolute power, so now there's a Yira and a Charada before the melech. So there's different levels of, we're talking about Yira from the Eibishter. So there's different, how we're going to have a Yira from the Eibishter, it's not something we can, the Eibishter is invisible. So it has to come through his Beinus. So there's different types of his Beinus. Alter Rebbe explains it, which he brings from Alter Rebbe and Tanya here. The Yirei Tata comes from his Beinus of Gdulasa Yizbarach Bebrias V'Yishavas Eilamis. The more one is Mizbeinu, meditates, contemplates, thinks deeply about the Eibishter's achievements in Brias V'Yishavas Eilamis, not just the Eilam of this Eilam, but all of the Eilamis, the Gashmi Eilamis, the Ruchni Eilamis, the more one understands and appreciates the godless Hashem in creation of everything, which is, of course, one of the reasons why we have Sukkot Zimra and davening before Kriya Shema, but over there it's for the purpose of V'ahavtas Hashem Elokecha, not for Yira, so the purpose of Ava. But the point is to give us an awareness and an understanding of the greatness of the Eibishter. The more one understands and appreciates that, it will bring to a Yira. But this is a Yira of a lower level Yira. It comes from the creations of the Eibishter. The Bittul should be Yira Zu, Bittul Hayesh. There's two types of bittul. We'll soon see what the other one is. This is called bittul hayesh. So it comes as a result of me as a yesh, as a being, as an existence, being mizbeinen and all that the Eibishter has done, and the result will be that I'm going to be awe-inspired. Right? We keep saying yira is mistranslated, doesn't mean fear. Rather, it means awe. And this is what's called bittul hayesh. Then there's the Yirei Law that comes from a different Hizbeinus, which is Migdulasei, the Hizbeinus in Migdulasei v'Rememusi Yizbarach Shalamayla Ma'elamis. A Hizbeinus not on the Eibishter as he is involved in the Elamis and understanding and appreciating and becoming awe-inspired from the Eibishter's immense, tremendous thing of achievement of Bria of the Elamis. But rather in his Hizbeinus on the godless and the Remus, the elevation and highness of the Eibishter, that as he is higher than Elamis. What does it mean that he's higher than Elamis? That Kula Kamei Kalei Choshev. That actually everything is not Kalei. Kula, everything Kamei before him is Kalei Choshev, is considered as nothing. That is Bittul B'Metzias. The Bittul should be Yirazu is Bittul B'Metzias. What's the difference between Bittul Hayesh and Bittul B'Metzias? Simple explanation is Bittul Hayesh is that there is a Yesh, and this Yesh is not bottled to the Eibishter. Bittul B'Metzias means that there is no Metzias at all. It's only Elokus, only the Eibishter. The first Hisbeinus comes to give us an understanding. We look outside, we look around, and we see that simple. You see the grass, you see the trees. That's very basic. Then the more you misbeinen in all of it, like the beautiful descriptions in Sukkot de Zimra and so on, the more we are impressed and realize what the Eibishter has done. But that's the second yira is a yira that comes from Milamayla, as we'll soon see. It's actually a gift Milamayla that we can't really achieve on our own. It's to be able to understand the lakus and what's behind everything, and to realize that all of this that we discovered in the yira Tata is actually bottle kiloi before the Eibishter. And that's called bittul b'mitzias, non-existent. It looks like it exists, it feels like it exists, but really it's all nothing. It's all the Eibishter doing it. And that these two types of yira, that's why you need one in order to reach the other. So this is and this is why in order to achieve and to arrive at yira law, that can't be achieved on one's own. That's dafka de gila milamayla. Because what a person is able to achieve through his beinus, through one's own, that will only be a level of elikus which is berech of the ilmis. But if you want to experience the Erein Seif and the Reimus of the Erein Seif, which is higher than Eilumis, that's dafka de gila milamayla. Like, for example, Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu was able to discover the kos and discover everything from being misbeinen in the Eibish's bria of Eilumis. So he started, as the Medrash says, he started with looking at the sun and looking at the moon, which one's Eibishter. First he realized that there must be some balabais to this place. Then he started thinking maybe it's the sun, but then the moon pushed it out of the way, but then the sun came back. And he went like that from the age of 3 until the age of Ben Arboim, Hikar Avar Mizbeirei. That's when he finally had his full philosophy. But all of that came from what? From his beinus on the Gashmis, the world around him. And from that was created Sefer Yitzira. Right? Sefer Yitzira, which the Gemara speaks about, that Rabbi Akiva was the one that wrote it down. It's all what the philosophy of Avraham Avinu that he discovered in all those 37 years of looking around the world. Which means you don't need to have a Gilui Milamayla. Simply from looking at the Gashmistic world, one can also come to a realization that is one Eibishter, which is what Avraham Avinu discovered. But then, at the age of 75, by Lech Lecha, that's when he had his first Gilui. At that stage, when he had his first Gilui, that's when he started discovering a whole new world. When did Avraham Avinu say, "V'anochi ofa v'ever," total, complete bittul? That was after the Gilui of Lech Lecha. Then he was able to say that. That's a bittul b'mitzias. Till then, the most he was able to achieve was bittul ayesh. Because bittul ayesh we can achieve through his beinus of our own. The his beinus, which will lead to a bittul b'mitzias, that already, as he says now, that already has to come as a Gilui milamayla. And that's why we say in the nusach of a bracha of our mitzvah, what do we say? That's what it says. This is what it says in Parshas Vaschana, the Eibishter commanded us to do all the chukim. And over here, the word chukim in the pasuk doesn't mean chukim as opposed to mishpatim. It means all the mitzvahs. The Eibishter commanded us to perform all the chukim. Why? Le'yira is havai, in order to bring yira. What does it mean? So the Rebbe interprets the pasuk to mean that if you want to achieve the level of yira law, through one's own hisbeinus, you'll never be able to achieve that. That's a gilui, v'rak de gilui milamayla. And which gilui milamayla? Shenim shachal de ha-mitzvahs. The gilui milamayla, which comes through mitzvahs. Right? Because as we learned in the past, I don't remember which Maamor, we learned that mitzvahs on our own can't be something which we can invent. A mitzvah is a tzafsa v'chibur. A mitzvah is a connection. We can't create a new type of connection to the Eibishter. The connection can only come when the Eibishter decides that this will be a connection. So the Eibishter chose in a black leather box that it's perfectly square and they painted properly. And inside there's this and this pashas, 4 in the head and 3 and 1 in the arm, etc. And all the details of the laws of tefillin. That is what's going to create the kesher. Round or triangle and purple and as nice and well-meaning as the person may be, it's not going to create the connection. We can't create a new mitzvah. So the whole idea of a mitzvah is that it comes milamayla lamata. That is a gilui milamayla. Mir versteht es jetzt, mir versteht es nicht. Whether we do understand or we don't understand it, I don't understand what the shaking Elul does. It's one of the strangest mitzvahs. But it's irrelevant what I understand. What's relevant is that the Eibishter said that that's a mitzvah that's going to make the kesher. that's going to give us the kesher. That's the key. That's what he's saying, and that's why the pasuk says, it doesn't say it here, but that's the pashtus. That's what he brings. The pasuk says, "Vayitzaven Hashem lasses kol hachukim o'ela." Now I said that the chukim over here refers to all mitzvahs, even the mishpatim, meaning that when we do the mitzvahs with the attitude that they're all chukim. Because the Eibishter said so. Whether I understand it or not, the fact that I understand some of the mitzvahs is an added chesed of the Eibishter, that he let me understand it in his lechazlei hagadol, in his great kindness. But really, it's all mitzvahs of the Eibishter, which really we shouldn't be able to understand. So the pasuk is saying when you do the Hashem, it's called chukim leyira. So he's saying because that when you do a mitzvah, that's the gili milamayla. And that through that Gila Milamayla, which is Nimshach Dafka, the mitzvahs, that's how we're able to achieve the higher level of Yirah Ilah. And now back to Elul. Therefore, V'zer Shayirah the Elul, Yirah Tata, and Yirah the Rosh Hashanah is Yirah Ilah. Because Elul is no mitzvah, Rosh Hashanah there is the mitzvah. Ki be'Elul, when the Melech, Shamelech U'Masada, which means Masada, Le Nirgash HaGadlus, L'Reim Shalem. When the Melech is in the Sada, as we learned in the previous Maamor, he's not advertising. He's not doing any publicity. He's not doing anything to attract the people. He's not a magnet. Because then it wouldn't be a genuine Ledodi. We discussed this in the previous Maamor. Rather, the Melech is there as an enabler, to enable us to be able to come to him. But it's not felt. The godless and the highness, the remus of the Melech is not experienced in the field. And therefore, V'hayira oz, that awe that people may have of the Eibush is it's an awe that people have on their own. Therefore, the Yira is the Yira Tata. Well, when the king is in his palace, when you meet the king in his palace, it's in his full glory, then you appreciate, you experience the remus, the highness of the king. And you appreciate and feel that he is elevated and detached, separated from the that's in the mashal. The benimshal, that's the gili of Rosh Hashanah, which is the gili of the remus of Ein Seif Shlomayla Ma'ilus. That's what's experienced on Rosh Hashanah. And Yira, the Rosh Hashanah is Yira Ilah. That's why it's called the days of awe, the Yomim Neiroim, because then we're experiencing the Neira-ness, the awesomeness of the Melech Aziz Behechel Malchusei, which is the full highness of the Melech. And that comes Milamayla Lamata. That comes from the Eibishter, which as we'll see, as we just read, and we'll see it more later, that's why we say the Bracha Shekidishanu B'mitzvah. With the mitzvah, he's Kiddishanu, he's giving us that access to the level of Kodesh, which means separation and detachment. Please mute everyone. Mute all. Okay, I'll do that now. If anyone wants to talk, you can unmute yourself. Okay. So that's the explanation of the difference between Yirah Ilah and Yirah Tato. Now let's take it a step further. So now, why do you need to blow Shir? Rosh Hashanah is a time when you behechel malchusay, so it's already there. So l'cheira, just being on Rosh Hashanah, especially if you do Shefer and Elul, and you have these beinos, and you be able to achieve Yirah Tata, so on Rosh Hashanah, Yirah Ilah should automatically happen, because like in the Mashal, you're in Heichel Malchusay. So why need to blow the Shefer? So he says that you need the Shefer in order to arrive to achieve Yirah Ilah, even though Av Sha'azuz Man is Galas Malchusay Yisvarach, so you should have it automatically. That means that on Rosh Hashanah it is Meir Ma'atzmai on its own is revealed the Gili of the Remus of the Ein Seif. So we should automatically have the Yirah Ilah response to the Gili of the Remus of the Eibush. So why the need for the Shefer? The reason is who Kizman who Gidra Ilah. It's true. Comes Rosh Hashanah. Then there's a gili of the Eibishter, and not just any gili. The gili not as he is in the southern. The gili as he is in Heichel Malchusay, and that gili taka is a gili which is going to bring about, going to create within us a higher level of yira. That's very true. There's just one shortcoming, and that is it's because the calendar changed to Rosh Hashanah, the day of the year, meaning Kizmanu Migidrei Ha'elam. The Eibishter created the world, and part of creation is Zman. He doesn't say that he created Zman, but the instant that he created Mokim, Zman automatically happens. So he created Mokim, it came together with Zman. That already is part of the Gedorim of the Elam, the parameters of Elam. So the level of Elikus, even of Ein Seif, that comes down because the calendar changed to Rosh Hashanah, as great as it may be, it's still a level of Elikus, which is Gidrei Ha'olam, because it was generated by Gidrei Ha'olam. The calendar changed, and a new day happened, and this day is Rosh Hashanah. So as great as it may be, it's still part of Zman, which is Megidrei Ha'olam. And what we want to be able to access on Rosh Hashanah is a level of Elikus, which is Hecher von Welt, higher than Elam. The level of Takev Remus, but it's still not the highest level of Remus that we can achieve. It's high, but not high enough. The level of Remus of Erin Seif, which is revealed on Rosh Hashanah, Mitzad Hazman de Rosh Hashanah, is a level of Remus which is shaykh to the Elmis. But the Gilui de Erin Seif, Kameshu Kodesh and Muvdal Me'elmes, the real Remus, which is Kodesh and Muvdal separate from Elmes, meaning even separate and higher than Zman, that is the level of Remus that can only be achieved. The Iker is Alidei HaMitzvahs, which is higher than Zman. Through saying Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvah. For that you need the mitzvah, and that's the mitzvah of Tkiyas Shefer. Yes, there is a level of Remus that's revealed on Rosh Hashanah because it's Rosh Hashanah, Hechel Malchusay, that's true. But that's only the level that's within the Gedorim, the parameters of Elamis, of Zman. Well, by doing the mitzvah, and as we said earlier, the mitzvah, because it's Milamayla Lamata, it is the Eibush is Gili to us, then it's a level of Erin Seif, which is refers to as Kodesh and Muvdal, signified in the words Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvah. And therefore, therefore, Yira v'charada mekela shefer. The Rosh Hashanah is Yira bittul b'tachlis. Yira ilo. Therefore, because it's a mitzvah, therefore it's mamshech a level of Erin Seif, which is Kodesh and Muvdal from Elamis, and as a result of that, it's going to enhance the Yira, a Yira of bittul b'tachlis, the ultimate level of Yira ilo, on the highest level, which means the highest level of bittul. Which bittul, not bittul, yes, but bittul b'mitzias. And that's why it's not enough just to have a Rosh Hashanah, but also there needs to be a mitzvah, and that's the mitzvah Hayem of Rosh Hashanah, to blow shofar, to be able to bring down an even higher level than what Rosh Hashanah itself brings down. Based on that, we can build the next idea. Now we can give another reason. The first reason we said of why the Yira of Shefer of El is Yira Tata is because it from the Tzemach Tzedek tells us is because of his Beinus in Elam. So, but now he's going to tell us another reason. Maybe the reason that the Shefer of Rosh Hashanah is able to bring to such a high level of Yira, a bittul b'mitzius, Yira ilo. Why is that? As we said, mitzvah mitzvah the Tkiyas Shefer because of the mitzvah. Contrast that with Elul. There's not a mitzvah to blow shefer in Elul. We don't make a bracha. Therefore, the resultant Yira, which comes from the shefer of Elul as opposed to the shefer of Rosh Hashanah, is what? Merely only bitla yesh, as we said. Yira tato. But Elul, Yira serves as a hakdama v'achana liyira ilo, the Rosh Hashanah. It's not isolated. It's for a purpose. It builds up to the Yirei Law of Rosh Hashanah. Because Kibichdei, Lovei, the Yirei Law, so the Yirei Tato, Kanal Ba'amayim. So the Yirei of Elul is not just to awaken us to Tshuva, but Yirei of Elul serves as a hachana for the Yirei Law of Rosh Hashanah. We can't just fall in to Yirei Law. There needs to be some sort of hachana and preparation beforehand, and that is done through blowing the shofar in the Chodesh Elul. Hey, hine yedua shechdei lovim yira tatal yirei lo tzarich li is tchila ava. In order to transition from yira tatal to yirei lo, there needs to first be an ava in between. The seder avodahu tchilu rechimu utchilu. First there is yira tchilu, then rechimu ava, and then ava, another level of ava, and then tchilu again. Okay, so what is this talking about? He doesn't explain it over here, but in 27 he refers us to three places in Tera'er and in Lekutei Torah from the Alter Rebbe. Over there, the Alter Rebbe is explaining. He says the same thing in all four places. In the previous Maamor before on Ledodi as well. two in Miketz, in the Chanukah Maimer, and one in Bolok, one in Red. Over there, the Alter Rebbe is saying the same thing. Over there, he's explaining the idea of Yud Kei Vav Kei, and that he explains it in the model of davening, of the four stages of davening as well, which correspond to Yud Kei Vav Kei. There's Psuki de Zimra, and then there's Krishma and Shmaneser, and after. The point what he's saying over here, there is the same thing, that there's Yud Kei Vav Kei. There is first Tchilo, and then there's Yira, and then there's Ava, and then there's a higher level of Ava, and then there's the ultimate level of Yira, the higher level. Okay, and then so that's what he's talking about over here. Really, Yadua. The details of it is not so negated to the Maimer over here, but it's worthwhile to look it up over there, mainly in the first one, in the Maimer of Miketz. If you're using the look at Gimel, there's a mistake over here. I don't know what it says by you in 27. It says L'kutei Torah Bolok Ayin Gimel. What does it say after that? Ayin Gimel Kama
Dalet.
Aleph. You're reading for the next print. The first print it said Mem. So if you're using the old Maamor Mamalukot, it says Mem. That's a mistake. Change it to an Aleph. There's no such thing as L'kutei Torah as Mem. It's only Aleph Beis Gimel Dalet.
Here is Dalet. We've got Dalet.
Bolok Dalet.
Bolok Ayin Gimel Dalet.
Oh, that's also a mistake. It should be Ayin Gimel Aleph. But look it up, just to confirm. Oh, okay. And about what does it say in the others? What are you learning from, parents? Jeff, what does it say by you?
By me, it says
I've got Mem.
You got
Dalet as well.
Oh, Dalet as well. Okay, then maybe it is Dalet. I thought it said Aleph. Okay.
I've got Mem.
Mem, it's not. Because there's only 4 Amudim.
Right.
There's only Yeah, Chaim, what do you say? Eating or you saying something? You're on mute. You're on mute, Chaim. Shout louder, it still won't work. You're still on mute. I'll unmute you. Hold on.
He's become a great granddad. He doesn't know how to work. He's
Yeah,
great
fine.
granddad.
He's eating, he's not talking. Okay, fine. Hold on. Okay. In any case, so the point is over there, the Alter Rebbe is saying this idea that the Yira and Ava actually work together. It starts with Yira, and then there's 2 levels of Ava, and then there's Yira. So the transition from Yira Tato to Yira Elo, so the is Tchila Ava. They say that Tchila Rechimu, Rechimu Tchila. So now, Tchila Rishain is Yira Tato. Lachner said there's 2 madrege, base madreges in the Rechimu, and what's known as Ava Zuton, Ava Rabba, small Ava and big Ava. And then Lachner says Tchila. Right, so the big Avo is in Krishma, the big Tchilu is in Shmanesra. That's so the Achazet Tchilu, which is Yirei Lo. What's the point? We then move on. The Zeshima Yira Tato, the Elul Boim, the Yirei Lo, Beresh Hashana. This, what does this tell us? That true, there's Yira Tato, there's Yirei Lo. This is all in line with what the Tur, how he looks at Kiyah Shever. But there's also, both of those Avos come like the Akdamas Ava. So how does that work? Back to the Mashal of the Alter Rebbe. And again, here the Alter Rebbe is going to introduce to us, this is Toshel Lamed Beis. This is already 22 years of explaining Basar Legani every year. And the Rebbe keeps coming up with new Gishmake insights and nuances in the Mashal of the Alter Rebbe. What is that? So we'll understand this idea of the 2 Tchilus and the 2 Avos from them back to the Mashal. That's obviously clearly that's a of Ava. The way David is receiving everybody with Panim Yafis and Panim Sheikhis, a nice face and a smiling face, clearly Ava. But there's 2 things: he's Mekabel and he's Maren. Mekabel is Kulam B'Seir Panim Yafis. Ubefrat and especially they Shemare Panim Sheikhis Lekulam. The result of that will be good morning. The result of that will be Zemeirer Etzlam. It is going to inspire and arouse within them the people, as the rule goes, Kamayim Aponim Leponim. You look into water, you automatically see the reflection. So the way the Eibishter receives and is Mekabel and the way he's married to them, love, it's going to be made by them also. Ahava back, Lamelech. So there's an Ava there. So there's a Yira and an Ava at the same time. Therefore, says the Rebbe Valpizi Yeshleimer, if you go look at the details of this, of the mashal, it actually is alluding to these 4 levels that the Alter Rebbe speaks about to look at the Torah in these 4 places. Tchilu, Rechimu, and Tchilu. Yira, Ava, and Yira. How does that work in the mashal? That's shaykh to Yira Tata. It's a low. Why are they going out to the melech? That's shaykh to Yira Tata. That's the two levels of Ava. Shtei Adarg is the Rechimu. It's Panim Yafes, Ava Zuta, and Panim Sheiches, which is Ava Rabba. Then afterwards comes the Indian of when he comes to his Heichal, that's already the higher level, that's already Yirei Law. So within the mashal itself, in the second half of the mashal, we have these four levels as well. Another insight into the mashal. V'hinei Vov. Okay, so what is he telling us over here? So he explained to us introduced to us in Gimel two reasons for blowing shofar. One is because of Yirei Law and Yirei Tata, and the other reason is in order to draw from the Makif, which we haven't discussed yet. Then Dalet he came to explain to us the differences between Yirei Law and Yirei Tata, how we achieve Yirei Law and how we achieve Yirei Tata, and the differences between them. Now he's telling us that the transition from Elul to Tishrei, from Yirei Tata to Yirei Law, there's a level of Ava in between, which is alluded to in the mashal of the two descriptions of how the Melech is Mekabelis Kulam. Vav. Hinei Av Shabbat Darg is the Yirei Law, the Yirah, even though they're within the levels of Yirah. The Yirah of Elul is Lamatama Yirah de Reish Hashanah, as we said till now. The Yirah of Elul serves as a Hachana for Reish Hashanah, in fact, which means that it's a lower level of Yirah. The Yirah de Elul, Yirah Tata, Yirah de Reish Hashanah, Yirei Law. Now the Rebbe is going to introduce to us, let's look at it from another angle, where in fact we can look at the Yirah of Elul as greater than the Yirah of Reish Hashanah. It's an Elul Maimer. Remember, we always ask the question, I remember Melech pointed it out in Yeshiva, you learn Chassidus, every time, whatever Yom Tov it is that you're learning, that is the greatest, the most important Yom Tov in the whole year. How can every Yom Tov be the most, when you're holding Pesach is the greatest Yom Tov. When you're holding Sukkot is the most important Yom Tov at that stage in the year. And as far as the Giluyim, there's no Hechev in them. This is the highest that there is. We're in Elul, so we're not going to be discussing the virtues of Reish Hashanah, how great that is. We've got to live today. Here, the rest of the Maamor, they was going to be telling us that a perspective that Elul is in fact greater than Reish Hashanah. You're waiting for the excitement of Rosh Hashanah. Elul now is really where it's all at. That's where you can have the highest Giluyim. And why? That's what he's going to tell us now to the end of the Maamor. Mikol mokim yesh ma'ila b'hayira de Elul al yira de Reish Hashanah. Because ka'yira v'abitul shebe Reish Hashanah, as great as it may be, kivin shazu zman. Why is it? Because shazu zman is galas malchusi yizbarech. Therefore, the yira v'abitul is einam chiddush. It's no big news. What? It's not surprising that when you're in Heichal Malchusay and the king is in his full royal garments, you're going to feel awe, that you're going to feel trepidation, that you're going to feel yira and charada. What's the chiddush? Obviously, it's obvious there's going to be yira and bittul. Because why? Because the kiva and shekula kamei klei chashiv, as we said earlier, that everything before him is kaloi, is considered as nothing. Therefore, v'chol shu kamei yeseh, the more something is kamei before him, will be yeseh kalei, will be more nothing. So the fact that Ezesh Yisrael bebitul yiroi lo bezman the Reish Hashanah when they are nimtzoim beichal malchusay, big deal. It was a chidush. It's not big deal in the sense that it's not a big deal. It's not surprising. Of course they're going to be bittul because they're standing before the Melech and heichal malchusay. So of course there's going to be bittul and yira on Rosh Hashanah. Ein b'zeh chidush. He goes now just to give us an example within Atzilus. Ubedugos abittul shem Atzilus. She'ein b'zeh chidush, that there's bittul of all the nivroim of Atzilus. Atzilus is the Eibush himself. There's no. Is it news to you that there's bittul? Bekivin shem Atzilus meir gilui erin safe. So of course everything is going to be bottled. And within Atzilus itself, al derech ze Atzilus gufa, she'habittul shevesfiras hachachma shabo ikra bittul is also ein chidush. Because of Ishachachma Gili, the Hulavadim, in Zelosai, the highest level of Atzilus is the level of the Spheres, is the level is Chachma, and Chachma is the first Ha'ara within Atzilus. Of course, there's going to be bittul over there. Markolshkin bittul the Keser, Davakashu Eretzach, Ukamu Kadamilas Ilis. Even though Keser is the highest level in Atzilus and it's an Eretzach, it's a pure light, but Ukamu, it's considered dark compared to Ilis Ilis, the cause of all causes. The Pirish Ukamu Shakeser Hu Bittul. Like a black mara, which is not gavoya neged mara lovan. I don't understand what that means. So the ukam of keser legabe eretz yisrael l'mayla ma keser elis ilis again shein ze chidush. Why? Because mikim shak keser masik shu bein arech legabe eretz yisrael. So as great as the bittul may be in all of those levels, it's not a chidush because of course it's supposed to be bittul because they understand, as he just said, because the keser is masik that is bein arech because he has that understanding. So of course it's going to be bittul. What's the news over here? The Chiddush is in Elul, where there's no Gilui. And over there, there's a bittul. Ooh, that's a surprise. That a Yid is in the middle of the Soda. He's in the middle of his Gashmi's Dika life. His head is down on the ground picking potatoes, so to speak. He's involved in Gashmi's. And suddenly over there, he's going to have a Yira Tato, but he's going to have a Yira of the Eibishter. That's really a novelty. That's what he's going to tell us here. Right after the brackets. On the other hand, then you don't experience the godless and the reimers of the Eibishter. And yet, not because there was a mitzvah, but because they decided to blow shofar on their own. Not just that they accepted upon themselves, they chose to blow shofar on their own. They blow shofar. Why? For the purpose of Yira v'charada. Why suddenly they want to be made a Yira v'charada? All is coming on their own. It's all genuine on Ledodi, as we learned in the previous Maamor. They want to have a Yira v'charada b'knei shekabal samalchus to b'shleimus. They want that the kabal samalchus should be a good one, a complete one, a perfect one. And this is all isarusa delatata. Nothing happened. Hine bittul zeh. After bittul hayesh, even though it's just bittul hayesh, hu yokar me'ed be'enei havai. It's very precious in the eyes of the Eibishter. And that is the advantage of the Yira of Elul over the Yira of Rosh Hashanah. So v'yesh leima da'adei ha'tainuk shel hamelech mizeh sheyesh likros lekabel ponav. Now to explain this tainuk that the Eibishter has from our Yisrael, the top of the month of Elul, the fact that we are Yates and Likras to go towards him, to Kabbalah, which is Kabbalah's Malchusis Baruch in Elul, B'Yesi Basada, when he's in the field. So as we said earlier, as we just said, it's a tremendous source of tainuk. This tainuk itself is enhanced, is mitesef eidi eser, b'zeshu mekabel eskulam b'sefer panim yavz l'man panim shekes l'kulam. It's enhanced by the way the Eibishter responds. Because, as we said, the response of the Eibishter creates an Ava in us, and therefore our Kabbalah's Malchus is with an Ava, and therefore the Kabbalah's Panim of the Eibishter is an even greater one. So, what is he saying? Again, he's saying, that enhances his Kabbalah's Panim and Sefer Panim Yafis and Mana Panim Shekes to us. Because of the tainuk that he's having, that we are on our own coming to be Mekabelim. Kabbalah's Malchus. Furthermore, is another explanation of the advantage of Yira and Bittul of El over Rosh Hashanah. As we just said. Not just that, but even more. Also, not just the Chiddush, but also the actual Bittul of Elul is in a sense greater. Because that Bittul Shadei Gilui, which is a Bittul b'Mitzios, a Bittul of Rosh Hashanah, but Kivin Shabittul b'Pnei Shemakir and Margish Eliv in their Gilui. Because that bittul comes because the person recognizes it's a gilui milamayla, as we said earlier, like by Rabbi Avinu. But that bittul and mitzias is because one recognizes and appreciates and feels even the ilui of this gilui. We realize how be'en arech we are. So therefore, this bittul kosher mitzias adam. But because it comes as a result of my recognition. So there's a me. The more I can understand, the more of a me there is. The real bittul really is the aved of Kabbalah Seil. When a person is shukmei eved, that there he's not serving because he understands and appreciates and wants to serve the king, but rather he's an eved. And the only reason he's doing it is not because he appreciates and loves he may appreciate and love the other, but that's not why he is doing what the other wants him to do. There's only one reason why an eved does what an Adon wants him to do. And that is because of the yoke of the Adon that's upon him, he must. And Elul is a time of Kabbalah Sahel. So even in the Bittul, though we said Elul is Bittul b'Metzias and Rosh is Bittul Ayesh, which is a higher level of Bittul, but he's saying, but the Bittul of that is the way we arrive at the Bittul Ayesh is through Havana Vasaga, through being Makir, through Margish, understanding, appreciating, feeling. Elul, nothing is happening other than the clock changed and it's Chodesh Elul. We decide to go B'Makabel upon him. We decide to go greet the king. We decide to blow Shofar, all on our own. That's Kabbalah's El. Kabbalah's El is a higher level of Bittul. Zayin. Now we can start answering some of the questions above. Now we can start explaining what the Tzemach Tzedek says in that Maamor that he quoted in Daled. The Damshach of the Makif of Rosh Hashanah is mainly through the Yira and the Charoda, which comes from the Shofar of Elul. This is what we said from the Pasuk of the Alter Rebbe in Tereir of Hashemayim Kisi, that to be Mamshech the Makif, it comes through the Charoda, is in a way of Bittul and Shiflus. Only Necheruach. That's the way you're able to be Mamshech this Makif. There has to be Bittul. As he explains it, the culture of the mashma the sasva yesi, the more lowly a person is, a makif shnimshach makif elin yesi is going to draw a much higher level of makif. Therefore, the main hamshach of makif therefore takes place in Elul, not on Rosh Hashanah, because Rosh Hashanah there's no chiddush. We said the bittul is not as great a bittul as the month of Elul, because of course there's a bittul on Rosh Hashanah. The Eibush said there's tremendous gilui. The Iker Hamshachas HaMakif is on the Yira V'Charada de Elul. Ki Yira V'Charada de Rosh Hashanah is on the Shemargish Agili de L'Mayla. Of course, there's a higher level of Yira Ilah and Bittul, but that is because one is Margish, one feels and experiences the Gili L'Mayla. But V'Bittul Shadei Hergesh Agili, therefore V'Bittul Shadei Hergesh Agili ain't nebeif in the Shiflus. A person may feel bottle, but a person may not feel shofel. What's the difference? Standing before the Melech, you feel bottle. But the fact that you got the permission to get into the Melech means you're a big guy, you're an important person. So that you still feel, I was privileged to be able to be before the Melech. I got permission. I got invited. So shofel is not something that you're going to describe someone who's standing before the Melech. Where do you have the main sentiment, feeling of Onu Necheruach, which is a bittul by for the shiflus, a shiflus type of bittul, that's in the year of a charod of Elul. That's why you need to have the bittul of Elul as a hachana for the bittul of Rosh Hashanah, the year of Elul as a hachana for the year of Rosh Hashanah, because the year of bittul of Elul is really a more genuine, a more real year of bittul than the one of Rosh Hashanah. You see how the Rebbe has just turned the tables around completely. Furthermore, Yesh Lahesif, 8 beer. Another beer in the mile of Yira the Elul of Yira of Rosh Hashanah. Till now, we said that we gave us 2 in the first paragraph of Vov. And that's why you need to have Elul before the Yira of Elul, before the Yira of Rosh Hashanah. Now he's going to come and tell us another mile in the Yira of Elul al Yira of Rosh Hashanah. The Yira of Elul comes from the Yisrael de Latato. Shashen is the Yisrael, Be'atzmos. It's coming from Yisrael. Now, where did Yisrael come from? The Shadish of Yisrael is in the Atzmos. Yidden are doing it on their own. And they're going to be Mamshich Elikus. Ultimately, Mamshich the Eretz Seif on Rosh Hashanah, which is higher than Zman. But who are Yidden? Yidden's Shadish is in Atzmos. Therefore, when Yidden are doing on their own to be Mamshech Elikus, which through Yira and Bittul, which level of Elikus are they going to be drawing down? They're going to draw down the level that they're capable of from their Shadish. And what's their Shadish? Atzmos. So it's going to be Mamshech the Atzmos. That's all in Elul. We even come to Rosh Hashanah, and Yidden already have an opportunity to be able to draw down the level of Atzmos, because they are rooted in Atzmos. Therefore, he says, now we can give a second and deeper reason, the Tam Pnimi, of why you need to have the Yira Tatov Elul in order to arrive at the Yira Ilah of Rosh Hashanah. Because Kalidea Yira the Elul is actually Hamshachas Atzmos. And by this in Shachar Machakach and Rosh Hashanah, etc., Gama Giluyim. Because what did we say earlier? That Rosh Hashanah is a new Gilead. How does that new Gilead happen? If you just learn in Tanya and Geras HaKedesh what the Alter Rebbe says, there's a new Gilead. David gives a Gilead in Rosh Hashanah. Here he's telling us the new Gilead happens as a result of the Yira Tata of Elul, as a result of the Sarusa de la Tata of Elul, as a result of the Aveda that we're doing in the month of Elul, because that's when we're able to draw down from the Atzmos of new Gilead. And then Rosh Hashanah is merely the Gilui, is the Giluyim of that which we achieved in Elul. Elul is really much greater than Rosh Hashanah from this perspective. Now he's going to come and tell us the same things regarding the Tshuva of Elul over the Tshuva of Rosh Hashanah, which is very relevant in Perek Echad Layem. Doing whoever's learning one Perek a day, doing Hilchos Tshuva now, Perek Dalet today, I think. Yeah. You know, there is the Gabin Tshuva de Elul. The similar thing applies to the Tshuva of Elul. Zeh Shebelul taking b'Shefar is, as we mentioned at the beginning of the Maamor from the tour, Kidei Lahazar Yisrael Sheyasa Tshuva. There's a reminder to do Tshuva. So that Yeshi was a Yisrael. So this Tshuva of Elul has a Yisrael and has an advantage over the Tshuva of Rosh Hashanah, which is even though the Tshuva of Elul is on Yonim built to Tzuyim. And it's a long-winded sentence with the brackets in the middle. So maybe we'll just skip it and then, but the Tshuva of Rosh Hashanah is a higher level of Tshuva. Now let's read inside. As what the Arizal writes, one of the Rosh Tevis of Elul is Inel Yodi V'Samtilach, which is in the pasuk said regarding Orei Miklat. The first time it's mentioned in Parshas Mishpatim. So it says Inel Yodi, that if it happened upon a person, he didn't intend, but Inel Yodi, it came to his hand V'Samtilach, that he killed somebody. So David says V'Samtilach, I'm going to give you cities of refuge. So that's Rosh Tevis of Elul. So that Rosh Tevis is a Rosh Tevis for tshuva, for inyanim built to the tzuyim, for unwanted things. Dori Miklat is a tikkun al inyanim built to the tzuyim. Then in the brackets he says he comes to explain why there's probably many other Rosh Tevis for Elul. Why does the Arizal choose Dafke the pasuk by Orei Miklat for the tshuva of Elul? So he says the Zesha tshuva the Elul remezes bin el yod v'samtelach shakapora Orei Miklat al makan evesh bishgaga. Dafke type of case where the kapora is for murder, inadvertent, accidental murder. Why does the Arizal choose that pasuk? Because when one does tshuva in Elul, the intentional sins become considered like shgoges. That's when a person does tshuva. When a person does tshuva, meaning you're not supposed to wait till Elul to do tshuva, right? The Rambam says you do tshuva immediately. The person does tshuva immediately, and if it is a mitzvah bezadain, an intentional mitzvah, so now it's considered like a mitzvah bishgoga. Then comes Elul, but tshuva the Elul is the sakin hashgoges. So therefore he brings this mitzvah, the ultimate shgoga is taking a life. So that's why that's the Rosh Tevis. So on the one hand, we have, back to what we were saying. The one hand we're saying is that we explain the difference of Tshuva of Elul over Tshuva of Rosh Hashanah. Tshuva of Elul is in Yonim built to the Tzuyim. But after the brackets, Tshuva of Rosh Hashanah, Tshuva of Rosh Hashanah comes after the Tikkun of Yonim built to the Tzuyim. Even the Shgogos. The Tikkun happened already, they are Tshuva de Elul. Therefore, the Tshuva of Rosh Hashanah is a different type of Tshuva. It's Tshuva Be'ikar, Tshuva Ilah. It's mainly Tshuva Ilah. So even though that Rosh Hashanah, the Tshuva of Rosh Hashanah is a Tshuva Ilah, and the Tshuva of Elul is a Tshuva Tata for actual Avedas, the different levels, different types of Avedas, we call Mokim nonetheless. Yes, Yisrael, but Tshuva de Elul or Tshuva de Rosh Hashanah. Again, there's an advantage of Tshuva Elul over Rosh Hashanah. What? Ki Tshuva, the Rosh Hashanah who remez b'mitzvah de Tkiyas Shefer. Tshuva in Rosh Hashanah doesn't say that there's a mitzvah of Tshuva in Rosh Hashanah. It's a remez hinted to in the mitzvah of Shefer, that the Rambam says in Hilchos Tshuva, not in Hilchos Rosh Hashanah, not in Hilchos Shefer. He says it in Hilchos Tshuva, he points out in 43. The Rambam says there that Alpha Bishit Kiyas Shefer B'Rishon Exeris HaKosov, it's a pasuk, doesn't give us a reason. Nonetheless, the remez yeshvei. Kileimar, what's the remez? What's it telling us? The Shefer is meant to announce, Uru Yisheni Mishinaskem V'chizru B'Tshuva Du Tshuva. So it's not explicit in the mitzvah of tshuva, in the mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah, that it's for the purpose of tshuva. So now, tshuva is separate from shefer, it's hinted in shefer. Now even though the mitzvah of tshuva, which is merumas in shefer, is higher than the mitzvah of tkiyas shefer itself, which is, that's what it is in 44. That's what I meant to say. That's why the Rambam, he points out, that's why the Rambam tells it to us in Hilchos Tshuva, not in the halachas of Tkiyah Shefer, because Tshuva is even higher than a mitzvah. Tkiyah Shefer is a mitzvah with all on the category of all other mitzvahs. Tshuva, explained elsewhere, Tshuva, because Tshuva is able to be mechaper, means it must be coming from a place that's higher than mitzvahs. So Tshuva is higher than the mitzvah of Tkiyah Shefer. Tshuva is higher than mitzvahs. That's why it's able to fix broken mitzvahs. And therefore it's only merumas in Shefer. And what's the significance of merumas? The merumas, the thing which is being alluded to, is higher than the davar which the remez is taking place in it. And it's so high that it's in mislavish b'davar rakim beremez bilvad. So the remez is the shefer, the merumas is tshuva, and tshuva is so much higher than mitzvahs that it can't even be expressed that shefer is, the Torah doesn't say shefer is for the purpose of tshuva, because tshuva is so higher than mitzvahs that it can only be hinted to in the mitzvah of shefer. So tshuva is very, very high. And the tshuva that comes from shefer, from tkiyah shefer, from the mitzvah of tkiyah shefer, must be god high. Yet, we call mokin. Nonetheless, it still means that there's some sort of, it's still within the same orbit. Maybe very high, maybe very detached, and merumas, and so, but it still means that there's some sort of dimyin, some sort of comparison, connection between them. And the kimat shel tkiyah shefer b'rishon is a mitzvah. L'chein gam hatshuva hanan rezes bo yesh lo sheiches lavedet Torah mitzvahs. So it's still a limited. The point what he's saying is it's still connected to mitzvahs by some way, even though it's taker emes. But since it's a mitzvah, and a mitzvah is limited, as we said earlier, to eir pnimi, so the tshuva that is nirmas in the mitzvah, which is eir pnimi, is also shaykh to the mitzvah. Where do you have the full gravity, the full whack of tshuva that's higher than eir pnimi and that's the tshuva that comes without a mitzvah, which is the tshuva of Elul. You can have mile of the tshuva. The main mile of tshuva is shemergia bebal haratzain. Not the tshuva that's part of a mitzvah, and mitzvah is fulfillment of the ratzain. Higher is the bal haratzain, the master of the ratzain himself, which is l'mayla haratzain of mitzvahs. That is when? That is the tshuva of Elul. You hear this? The tshuva of Elul is greater than the tshuva of Asayas make tshuva. Because the tshuva of Elul reaches into the bal haratzain itself, because it's not weighed down, so to speak, by the mitzvah. It's hecher from mitzvahs. As great as mitzvahs are, there's something greater than that, and that's why minhag. I mean, this is why what the Rebbe explains. Why is Simchas Torah the most important day of the year? Because Simchas Torah is minhag. The Rebbe asks, Simcha of Sukkot is the Reisa. Simcha Shmini Atzeres is the Rabbanon. Simchas Torah is a minhag. And in minhag, that's where you see the true Yiddishkeit. That's where you see the true love that the Yidden have for the Eibusha, dafka in minhag. Not because they have to do it, but because they want to do it. Without learning Chassidus, one can't understand and appreciate what Simchas Torah is. So yesterday it came up in a discussion by Shalosh Shudas and Shul. The discussion, there's not going to be Simchas Torah this year. And the Rav says, of course not. It can't be. We'll take the Sefer Torah around the Bima 7 times. And I said, if you can have Kol Nidre, then you can have Yiska, you can have Simchas Torah. Why is Kol Nidre and Yiska the most important things in British Jewry? That's what everybody's booked in Shul. Simchas Torah. Mitzvahs are very great. You can even do something that reaches higher than mitzvahs. In Elul, it's Tshuva. In Tishrei, it's Simchas Torah. Why is it that tshuva, this type of tshuva, can reach to the Baal HaRotzin, to reach a level that's higher than the Rotzin of mitzvahs? Is because because Yidden are higher and preceded Torah. And mitzvahs are in Torah. Yidden are higher than that and before that. Therefore, the mile of tshuva is when the tshuva comes from the Adam, from the Yisrael himself, tshuva the Elul, which is an Ledodi. Which similarly the Rebbe explains regarding Simchas Torah, because the Simcha comes not because it's a mitzvah to be b'simcha, not even a mitzvah because it's a mitzvah the Rabbanon, but it's the same words as over here, because the mitzvah, the Simcha ba from the Adam Atzmai. That's just an advertisement for Simchas Torah. Test. Right, so that answers our questions. So the main question we asked was, how do we bring together the Ava element of Elul with the Yira element of Elul. The Ava element of Elul, as it's explained by the Alter Rebbe, and the Yira element of Elul, which is explained by the Torah, the two very different types of Eluls that exist by Yidden. And here the Rebbe explains how we bring them both together, that there has to be both. Tchilo, Ava, Tchilo. There has to be them both. And there's a Yira simultaneously together with the Ava. Which one of the questions we asked was, Deidi Li is Rosh Hashanah, so then why is it part of the Rosh Hashanah of Elul? Because who? The reason that the Anila Deidi of Elul brings about the Deidi Li of Rosh Hashanah of Yom Kippur is because the Aved of Anila Deidi Magia Ba'atzmus. Because the Aved of Elul and the day it reaches into the Atzmus of the Eibishter. And from there comes the Giluyim, which is the Deidi Li of Tishrei. So the Deidi Li happens in Tishrei, but it's generated in Elul. So therefore, it legitimately is part of the Rosh Hashanah of Elul. When Nimsa comes out, Shebanila Deidi the Elul is Klula, is included, Gamam Shacha, the Deidi Li. Now here the Rebbe says an interesting thing, explaining one of our minhagim. That explains why the Tkiyas of Elul, according to Chabad custom, is Tashrat, Tashat, Tarat, right? Everybody else blows just 4 Tkiyas after davening. But by us, we blow all 10. Kol HaKelis should take B'Reish Hashanah. Why is that? All the different type of Kelis. Because Tkiyas the Elul, now we understand why. Because the Tkiyas of Elul have within them Yeshna Kol and Yonashu with Tkiyas the Reish Hashanah. It contains within them, encapsulates all of Tkiyas Shefa of Rosh Hashanah. So that case will say we should blow 100 every day. Based on what we're learning here in the Maamor that Elul encapsulates all of Rosh Hashanah, and the Tshuva is Hecher, the Yira is Hecher, the Gilui is Hecher, everything is Hecher, everything is higher. So we should blow 100 every day, on that logic. So he says, Elul taking Esa Keles, Me'er Keles, Ulai Taka. He says, maybe we should. Why don't we? The reality is we don't. Perhaps the reason is the Elul, because in the Tkiyas of Elul, since they are, as we've explained, as we've proven, they are the Shadish of all the Yonim that come down on Rosh Hashanah. So at this stage, when they're still the Shadish, they can't yet be divided into 100 Kelis. So we just do the 10, which are the 10 Klolosdika ones, and then the details of which is the way the 100 are blown, already go into details. That already we leave for Rosh Hashanah because that's the Giluyim already. The Gilui is on Rosh Hashanah. The Gilui of what? What was achieved in Elul. What's achieved in Elul, that's symbolized or encapsulated in the 10 notes. And that's why we blow 10. That's the reason why we blow 10 in Elul. Yud. Especially through the Aved of Elul. They should hasten even more so the Geula. Another Rosh Hashanah in Elul is hinted Lahavaya Vayemer Lemar or Shira from Oz Yosher, also which is an expression of redemption of Geula. Because then when they left Mitzrayim, they were able to take with them all the sparks, and that's the Geula which happened then, and that's also alluded to, hinted in the name of Elul. And the so certainly the Melech is coming out, so certainly he's going to fulfill the Bakash of every Yid, which is Shetiya like Ksiva Vaksima Teva, Lashana Teva Mesuka, Bateva Nina Ranigler, Hein Binyan Maruchni, and Belimid Atenu Kiyah mitzvahs. It should be Ksiva Vaksima Teva, Lashana Teva Mesuka in the spiritual things of learning Torah and fulfilling mitzvahs, and also in Yana Magashmim, in Bonne, Chayim, Zene, family, health, Parnasa, and all of this should be Revichi. But again, certainly regarding the ultimate and the most important Bakasha Ikris of Yidden, which is the Gula Mitzvah Shlema Ladei Mashiach Tzidkenu, Yavo V'Yigalenu V'Yilechenu V'Yimich Natzenu V'Karov Mamash. Any questions? No? Okay. Must be a good.